I want to talk about why I got 100 rejections early in my career and why it took me so long to sell a book. I was doing a lot of things wrong and had a lot to learn. It was ridiculous how much I had to learn. And I had written all my life. But I did the stuff that you do in high school and college where everybody gives you an A and tells you this is the most amazing thing ever. I had not written an actual book, and I had actually no idea how to write a book. This was back in the days when I had a typewriter before computers were even invented. And so I would type it up, print it out, and then mark it up. I had one of those Smith Corona electric typewriters that my parents got me for a graduation gift. So that's how ancient I am. And then my dad bought a TRS-80 and I could put it on the computer. Didn't make the writing any better, I might add. I didn't know any better though, and so I kept sending the books out. And I'm going to tell you the top 5, there were probably 500, but the top 5 things that I was doing wrong so that you can save yourself the trouble of doing those and get there that much faster. By the way, behind me are my monarch caterpillars. They're sort of my stress relief. I just watch them munch, munch, munch and turn into butterflies, and it makes me happy during a stressful day. Let's talk about my mistakes and then give me a reason to get stressed again, right? So when I first started out, what I really wanted to sell was a romance novel. I had taken a class on how to write a romance novel, like one of those community ed classes that they offer free to the public. So it wasn't like I took a college course. I just took like a 2-night class and was like, oh, I can do this. So I started writing a book about a realtor named Lindsay who has 5 cats. I know, that's a red flag right there. Any guy who's going to date her is just going to be like, whoa, 5 cats. But the cats were not entirely the biggest problem. So in the original draft, the very first draft, I had the cat in her lap. That's how the book opened up, and the cat's purring, and she talks about how she got the cat and where she got the cat. That is boring. That is boring as heck. I am sorry. Nobody wants to read that. I thought people did, but really, nobody wants to read that. So I kept rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. But the second version of the book was not actually any more exciting. It starts with Lindsay's car breaking down on the way to work. Hey, I got rid of the cats. But it's basically her walking to work and being annoyed. That's not interesting to anybody. When you go to work and you get that guy that comes up to you at the water cooler and he's like, oh my God, my car broke down today. I had to walk to work. It was so hot. I didn't have any water. And you're just like, how do I get away from this person? I don't want to hear this story because it is boring and it doesn't affect me. So my number one mistake was that I opened with basically a yawn. Now, you don't have to open with a car chase. You don't have to open with a murder, but you do have to open with something compelling that makes the reader want to turn the pages, something that the reader's going to care about, which means you're going to layer in a little bit of a hint of what's to come and a little bit of a mystery about what the character's doing, and yet keep it interesting. Not something that nobody wants to hear at the water cooler on a Monday morning. And definitely, as much as I love cats and dogs, I have a cat. Definitely don't start with the story of adopting 5 cats. The second mistake that I made shows up the minute the hero shows up on the page. And I think at the time that alpha heroes, the billionaires that were kind of jerks, were really in. And I honestly don't actually like that kind of guy at all. I don't like writing it. I don't like reading it. But for some reason, I decided to make the hero of this story some kind of an alpha jerk guy. So he comes in and they are arguing for 3 pages. I don't know if you've ever sat by and watched an argument, but it is like sitting in the middle of purgatory. It's awful to watch other people argue. It's uncomfortable. People that don't like conflict or get anxious about conflict hate reading it, hate seeing it. Not good. And here's the thing about conflict. I do have a video that you should watch about how to do that. Conflict is not arguments. It's not that at all. It is a lot of other things that is going on. Conflict between goals, conflict between internal issues and insecurities and fears and anxieties. Conflict comes from everything but arguments. It can manifest in an argument from time to time, but again, no one likes to read that. Nobody likes to watch that. You see that couple having a total screaming match in Walmart and you're just traumatized. So no, don't put that on your page. Except I did that. That was my number 2 mistake. My number 3 mistake was probably one of the big things that it took me a really long time to learn. And that's that whole show not tell thing. And you hear that and you're like, I don't even know what that means. Well, showing is using the words in a powerful way to get across emotion or a mood or anything like that in your book. You want to kind of make it feel like it's more active or more scary or more emotional or, kind of really show what the house looks like so people can see it in their minds. Showing engages the reader's imagination. It's great when you know how to do it. I did not know how to do it in the beginning, and what I did was a lot of adverbs. Adverbs are telling words because they tell the reader exactly how the character is doing something. So if he walked slowly or she said impatiently, well, you don't need to tell the reader that. They're supposed to be able to figure it out from the character's actions and words. Then the other thing I did was anything other than said for a dialogue tag. Now, dialogue tags are the he said, she said. Those are good. The reason why you want to use those is that they're kind of invisible. Like we've read them so many millions of times in our lives that we just don't even see it. We kind of make a mental note on who said what and move on. I love action tags. Action tags do a 2-for-1. They not only tell you who said what words, but then the character's doing something. So something like, Joe, you're a jerk. She walked out the door and it slammed behind her. That's an action tag because you have the action of the character that said the words. I didn't do that in that first manuscript at all. I instead did things like he scowled, he shouted, he ranted, and she cried and she shouted, because I told you lots of arguments. So it was definitely not showing. I didn't engage any of the senses. I didn't describe things that were important to that scene and to that character. And I'll get to why in a second. And I just sort of like got through the argument and got on to the next argument between them because they basically argue for like 6 chapters in this book. The things that you describe in your book, the things that you choose to show, should be things that make sense for that character to notice, have impact on that character, and are important to the plot in some way, shape, or form. Because when the reader sees something described and they see you kind of go into some effort to really bring this section to life, they're trained, like way back from when they first started reading, to take note of that. Like if you're going to really describe the next door neighbor's house, then there's going to be something important about that house down the road. And the reader's going to file that away in the back of their mental closet there for the book. So you want things that are important to the scene, important to the character, and important to the plot, and descriptions that are triggered by that moment in time. If you walk to school the same route every day, or you walk to work the same route every single day, you're not going to describe every single inch of that route because you see it every single day. None of that is super important to you. But if you see one of the neighbors run screaming out of her house, that is a moment that has some impact on you. You're like, wait, what's going on? Then you might pay more attention to all of the details. Maybe if the cops call you and they need some feedback, you're going to be able to give it to them because you're going to pay attention to those details because that moment had impact on you. I was not doing that. I was just using a whole lot of adverbs and just kind of not describing anything that was important. Well, in the first version, I did describe the cats in great depth. Cats had no bearing on the plot whatsoever. Again, I do love cats, but no, not in my book. It shouldn't have been there. The fourth thing that I did, I kind of touched on earlier. The hero, David, was an arrogant, sexist jerk. And again, I have no idea where I got the idea to write a character like this because nobody likes that guy and nobody wants to date that guy. And as a reader, I should have been going, hey, those are huge red flags, honey, run the other way. But I didn't. I think I sort of thought that this was the stereotypical romance hero. And so that's what I created. And it was not at all. The guy had 0 redeeming qualities in the whole first chapter. If you see the video that I released on how to analyze a scene and to take that and use that to write a better scene between a hero and heroine, one of the things that I mentioned was that the hero had a save the cat moment. He had like a baby save the cat moment, a little teeny tiny one, and then he had a bigger one. And those moments tell the reader that, okay, maybe he's being kind of a jerk here, but he's actually a good guy. Maybe something's bothering him. So the reader gives him a little bit more of a pass and wants to understand why he's being so grumpy right now. So that's what I should have done in this first chapter of the book, but it's not what I did in the first chapter of the book, or anywhere, frankly. Again, are you surprised I had 100 rejections? I'm not at all when I look back at it. The fifth problem, the one that I see a lot of times in the writers that are signed up for our masterminds or the writers that come to the Fun Fiction Fridays and ask me questions, the fifth thing is what is missing from a lot of books. And one of the hardest things for me to learn was that I did not have an emotional storyline at all. I was all about the action. Well, we've got to have some kind of an argument. We've got to have some kind of a goal. We've got to have him buy this house, and then he lives in this town, and then she's trying to save her career. These were all external, physical, tangible goals. But there was no emotional storyline underneath it. There was no emotional growth for the character. And there was no emotional driver for what they were doing. So if your character wants to buy a house, there's got to be some kind of an emotional reason tied to it. Maybe they're buying grandma's house that just got put up for auction. Or maybe they're buying their very first house where they are no longer going to be homeless. That has an emotional tie into it. And then the character has to have emotional growth. The way they are at the beginning is not how they should be all the way through. They should grow and change and basically grow up a little bit more and become people that deserve the happy ending that you're going to give them in the book. So I didn't have any of that. I didn't have characters that were emotionally stunted. I just had characters that were arguing and one that really liked cats. There was nothing going on there, no depth to these characters. And because I didn't have the emotional storyline, the thing that does is it disconnects the reader. Emotion is what connects the reader to the character. Emotion is what makes the reader want to read more. And emotion is what keeps them turning the pages because they care. If the guy at work whose car broke down and had to walk to work on the Monday morning, if he was some guy you were like really interested in, you'd care. You'd listen to his story. Or maybe if he was a guy that was already like on the verge of homelessness and he, lost his lunch and somebody stole his wallet and then you're feeling really bad, then you're going to care about his story about walking to work. Otherwise, you're not. If you don't have that emotional tie, you don't care. So you have to build that with your reader so that the reader is ready to go on this whole journey of 400 pages or 1,000 pages, however long your book is. So if you're at this point too, if you've gotten some rejections from publishers or your beta readers are saying, I'm not resonating with the book, or you're getting bad reviews, then you need to fix this one key thing, which is your characters. And you do that by having a character that has insecurities, fears, and doubts that are brought on by something called deep emotional wounds. And in order to make them emotionally deep, I have actually an entire video where I go into this in depth, talking about creating deep emotional wounds for your character. And when you know what those are, that's how you build that emotional connection with the reader. So watch that video right there, because that one is going to give you the secrets to really creating that emotional connection with the reader. And that's going to make a book that people can't put down.